Our digital lives are a performance. They're a highlight reel, carefully curated with filters and captions to show the world our triumphs, dreams, and a very specific kind of beauty. For 27-year-old Valeria Marquez, her digital world was a masterpiece. She was a rising star in Mexico's influencer scene, a young entrepreneur who had built a business from her passion for style. Her hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok and Instagram knew her for makeup tutorials, travel photos, and a personality that seemed to shine right through the screen. She was building an empire, one client at a time, from her chic salon, the Blossom Beauty Lounge, in Zapopan, Jalisco. But behind the perfection of the ring lights, a darker reality was closing in. In Mexico, being a woman carries a certain risk, and being a woman in the public eye, with a growing platform, multiplies that risk. Valeria wasn't just a successful influencer, she was a young woman in Jalisco, a state that has become a notorious hotspot for cartel violence and one of the most dangerous places for women in a country already battling a femicide crisis. These two worlds, the glossy realm of social media and the brutal reality of organized crime, were about to collide in the most public and horrific way. On May 13, 2025, Valeria Marquez's performance came to a sudden and violent end, and her followers, who had tuned in for beauty tips, would become unwilling witnesses to her execution. The audio is scratchy, filtered through a phone microphone during a TikTok live. The voice belongs to Valeria Marquez. It's casual, but there's a flicker of unease you can't quite place. She's holding a small, stuffed pink pig, a gift she just received. Then, her voice, a little hesitant, says three chilling words: "They're coming." A man's voice, polite and unremarkable, is heard of. "Hi, are you Valeria?" Her reply is a simple, final confirmation. Her last word broadcast to the world. Yes. The audio abruptly mutes. For a few seconds, there is just digital silence. A terrifying, anxious pause. Then, the silence is shattered by the unmistakable crack of gunfire. The live stream and Valeria's life are over. A dream realized at Siri. Valeria Marquez Lopez was born on February 14, 2002. From a young age, she had an ambition that was bigger than her years. While she once thought about a career in dentistry, her creative and entrepreneurial spirit pulled her in another direction. Like many in her generation, she saw the power of social media as more than just a place to connect. It was a platform to build a business. Her content was a mosaic of her life, beauty tutorials that showcased her skills, modeling photos from her time in pageants, and peeks into her travels. She had a natural charisma, an ability to connect with an audience that felt both aspirational and real. But nearly 200,000 followers across her platforms, Valeria was more than just a content creator. She was a brand. She channeled that online success into something tangible. The Blossom Beauty Lounge, located in Zapopan, a large municipality in the Guadalajara metro area. The salon was the physical embodiment of all her hard work. It was her space, where she practiced her craft, specializing in cosmetic procedures like eyebrow and lip treatments. A salon chair, a ring light, and a phone streaming live. These were the tools she was using to build her future. To her followers, Valeria's life seemed like an open book, an inspiring story of success. But in the days and even moments before her death, that story began to take a dark turn. In one of her final videos, her words now feel like a haunting premonition. "I've changed," she told her audience. "I don't go out. I don't drink. I stopped dealing with bandits. I'm only around good girls now." It was a declaration of a fresh start, a deliberate turn away from a past that held unnamed dangers. She was trying to build walls around the life she had worked so hard to create. But the bandits she mentioned weren't so easily left behind. They were much closer than she could have imagined, and they were about to bring their world of violence crashing into hers. The final live stream, May 13, 2025, started like any other workday at the Blossom Beauty Lounge. Valeria was doing what she did best, interacting with her community, a live audience of thousands watching her on TikTok. The vibe was casual, the conversation light, but a strange event earlier in the day had already planted a seed of anxiety. While Valeria was out, a delivery person had shown up at the salon. An employee, identified in some reports as Erica, took the call. The man on the other end was insistent. He had a very expensive gift for Valeria and said he had to give it to her in person. When Valeria got back and heard about the mysterious visitor, you could see the fear set in. She shared her anxiety with her live audience. her voice laced with a worry that cut through her usual upbeat tone. "I was doing some things today, and Erica called me and said, 'Hey, babe, they're bringing you something, and I don't know what, but they want to give it to you,'" she explained on the stream. The fact that the delivery man said he would wait for her was unnerving. On the broadcast, she said the dark thoughts that were racing through her mind out loud. "Maybe they were going to kill me," she said, a question that would soon become a horrifying reality. Were they going to come and take me away, or what? Minutes after she voiced these fears, the men came back. This time, they came inside under the guise of finally making their delivery. A man with his face hidden by a mask stepped into the salon. He wasn't alone. A second man waited outside on a motorcycle, ready for a quick getaway. The masked man approached Valeria, who was still live, her phone propped up and her followers watching. He handed her the delivery, a Starbucks coffee and a stuffed animal, a soft, pink pig. It was a bizarre, surreal Trojan horse. The man then asked the question that sealed her fate, a final confirmation of his target. "Hi, are you Valeria?" he asked. She responded with a simple, unsuspecting yes. It was the last word anyone would hear her speak. In that instant, she reached for her phone and muted the microphone on her lap. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe, in that split second, she finally understood the true nature of the delivery and execution in real time. The digital silence that followed Valeria's final word was a terrifying vacuum for the thousands watching. On screen, she was visible, holding the toy pig. Off-screen, the masked man revealed his true purpose. He wasn't a delivery driver. He was an executioner. He raised a gun and fired. The bullets hit Valeria in the head and chest. The impact was immediate and brutal. On the live stream, her followers watched in horror as she grabbed her chest, her body convulsing from the force of the shots before she collapsed in her chair. The curated, vibrant world of her TikTok feed was shattered by an act of unspeakable violence. For a few horrifying seconds, the camera kept streaming, capturing the nightmare. Then, the face of another woman, likely her employee, flashed across the screen as she frantically grabbed the phone and ended the broadcast. But it was too late. The image was seared into the minds of everyone who saw it. A digital ghost had been created. Chaos erupted in the Blossom Beauty Lounge. Paramedics were called, but there was nothing they could do. When they arrived, they could only confirm what the live stream had already shown the world. Valeria Marquez was dead at just 23 years old. News of the murder spread with the speed of a viral video. The horrifying clip, screen recorded by viewers, began to circulate online, transforming into a piece of digital horror. Valeria's name trended across social media, not for a new beauty trend, but as the victim of a brutal, live-streamed femicide. Her followers became a global community of witnesses, united in shock, grief, and a burning demand for answers. Soon, tributes of flowers and candles appeared outside her salon, a makeshift memorial for a life cut short in the most public way imaginable. The investigation and the specter of femicide's news of Valeria's murder exploded. Authorities were quick to respond. The Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office took charge of the case and immediately announced they were investigating it under femicide protocols. In Mexico, femicide is a specific legal term for when the killing of a woman is driven by gender. This designation acknowledges that these aren't random acts of violence, but the ultimate expression of a culture of misogyny. For a murder to be classified as a femicide, it has to meet certain criteria, like a prior relationship between the victim and perpetrator, or the public display of the victim's body. By labeling Valeria's death a potential femicide, the state was acknowledging the gendered nature of the crime. The investigation quickly began to paint a picture of a planned execution. Surveillance footage confirmed 2 men were involved. One shooter who entered the salon, and another who waited on a motorcycle for the getaway. Dennis Rodriguez, a spokesperson for the prosecutor's office, pointed out a key detail. The killer had to ask for Valeria by name, which suggested he didn't know her. The aggressor arrived asking if the victim was there, so it appears he didn't know her, Rodriguez told the press. With that, you can deduce ... that this was a person who was paid. The conclusion was chilling. Valeria Marquez was likely the victim of a contract killing, murdered by a hit. This immediately raised 1,000 questions. Who would hire an assassin to kill a 23-year-old beauty influencer? What could the motive possibly be? Investigators began the painstaking work of piecing together Valeria's life. looking for anyone who might have held a deadly grudge. They announced they would be interviewing her friends and family, casting a wide net in the search for answers. But as they dug into her life, they were entering a world where the lines between admiration and obsession, and between relationships and dangerous entanglements, were terrifyingly blurred. The theory of a hired killer pointed toward the shadowy world of organized crime that holds a terrifying grip on the state of Jalisco. This case is more than a headline. It's a stark reminder of the violence that women in Mexico face every day. If you believe this story is important and that Valeria deserves justice, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Spreading awareness is a crucial step in demanding accountability. Now, let's explore the theories that could explain who wanted Valeria Marquez dead, and why. The cartel connection. To understand the deepest theory behind Valeria's murder, you have to understand where she lived. Zapopan, Jalisco, isn't just any city. It's the heartland of one of the most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations in the world, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. For years, the CJNG has waged a brutal war for control, and their influence is felt in every corner of society. In a region so dominated by a single criminal group, any professional-style execution is going to fuel speculation of cartel involvement. Almost immediately, local media and online forums buzzed with rumors connecting Valeria to the cartel through a former romantic partner. Reports began to surface that Valeria had been in a relationship with a high-ranking CJNG leader named Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, also known as LRR. According to this theory, the motive wasn't business, but a crime of passion rooted in jealousy. The speculation suggested that Ruiz Velasco, angered by the attention and expensive gifts Valeria received from other men, may have ordered the hit. The very expensive delivery she had mentioned on her live stream suddenly took on a sinister new meaning. What if it wasn't a random admirer, but a rival? In the hyper-violent and possessive narco world, such a gesture could be seen as a fatal sign of disrespect. While this theory spread like wildfire, it remains speculation as far as Mexican authorities are concerned. The Jalisco prosecutor's office has stayed tight-lipped, refusing to publicly name any suspects or confirm a cartel link. In a statement, they cautioned against jumping to conclusions, saying that there is not, at this moment, in the investigation folder, any direct accusation against a particular individual. However, the name Ricardo Ruiz Velasco wouldn't go away. While Mexican officials stayed silent, another government, just north of the border, was about to give this theory a terrifying amount of weight. A suspect named by another country for weeks. The official investigation in Mexico seemed to stall. There were no arrests, no named suspects, and a growing public frustration. Then, in June 2025, just over a month after Valeria's death, the case took a stunning turn, not from Guadalajara, but from Washington, D.C. The United States Treasury Department announced new sanctions against 5 senior members of the CJNG for their roles in drug trafficking and violence. And there, among the sanctioned narco leaders, was Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, LRR. The US government's press release was unusually direct. It identified Velasco as a prime suspect in the murder of his alleged girlfriend, social media influencer Valeria Marquez. It cited her killing as a prominent example of the brutal prevalence of femicide in Mexico. While they stopped short of a formal legal accusation, the implication was impossible to ignore. According to the US Treasury, Ruiz Velasco had a history of being implicated in other high-profile murders, including the 2017 killing of another influencer, Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales, better known as El Pirata de Culiacán, who was executed after insulting the CJNG's top leader. El Mencho. The American announcement created an extraordinary and awkward situation. While Mexican prosecutors were officially saying they had no particular suspect, the US government had not only named one, but had also publicly tied him to the case. This put immense pressure on the Mexican investigation. It seemed to confirm the public's worst fears, that Valeria's murder was a calculated femicide with ties to one of the world's most dangerous cartels. Yet, the official silence from Mexican authorities continued, raising troubling questions. Was the state just being cautious, or were they unable or unwilling to pursue a suspect as powerful as LRR? The digital ghost and a nation's grief in the aftermath of her murder. Valeria Marquez's TikTok account was taken down, but her digital presence wasn't erased. The chilling video of her execution had been captured by thousands and began to spread across the internet. Valeria became a digital ghost, her image and the horror of her death trapped in a perpetual loop, haunting the very platforms she had used to build her dreams. The public reaction was a tidal wave of grief and outrage. Her death wasn't just another statistic. It was a visceral, shared trauma. People hadn't just read about it. They had seen it. They had heard her last word. This galvanized a powerful response. Vigils were held outside the shuttered Blossom Beauty Lounge. The storefront transformed into a shrine of flowers, candles, and notes demanding justicia para Valeria, justice for Valeria. Her murder became a rallying cry for a nation fed up with the relentless violence against women. The tragedy, however, was compounded by a final, cruel act. Sometime after her burial, Valeria's tomb was vandalized, a heartless violation that added another layer of pain for her family. It was a stark reminder that the violence that took her life lingered even after her death. For her family and followers, the fight was no longer just about mourning. It was about preserving her memory and fighting for the justice that seemed to be slipping away. Her death had opened a wound in the national psyche, exposing the terrifying vulnerability of women in a society where a life can be extinguished in an instant. The shadow pandemic of femicide of Valeria Marquez's murder, while shocking in its public nature, is tragically not unique. It's a single, brutal data point in the terrifying crisis of femicide that plagues Mexico and Latin America. Activists and organizations like the United Nations call gender-based violence a shadow pandemic, claiming lives with horrifying regularity. On average, at least 10 women and girls are murdered every day in Mexico. That's 10 families shattered every single day in 2023. Mexico officially recorded 852 femicides, but many experts believe that number is a significant undercount. The problem is deeply embedded in a cultural fabric of machismo, a culture of male dominance that can view women as disposable. This toxic mindset is amplified and weaponized within the hypermasculine world of organized crime. In the wake of Valeria's death, the newly elected president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, publicly condemned the killing. She expressed solidarity with Valeria's family and confirmed her top security. Cabinet was working with the Jalisco prosecutor's office to find those responsible. Investigations are underway to first find those responsible and the motives, she stated. But for activists, words aren't enough. They demand systemic change to fight a system where the impunity rate for femicides is estimated to be as high as 92%, meaning the vast majority of killers are never brought to justice. Valeria's case, with its international attention, has become a test for the Mexican justice system. Will her story be another statistic, or will it be a catalyst for change? A haunting silences of October 2025, MONTHS, after Valeria Marquez was executed on a live broadcast. The official investigation in Mexico remains shrouded in an unsettling silence, despite the U.S. Treasury publicly identifying Ricardo Ruiz Velasco as the prime suspect. Mexican authorities have not announced a single arrest. The case, which ignited a firestorm of public outrage, seems to have faded into the background. The motorcycle, the masked gunman, and the man who allegedly ordered the hit all remain at large. This official silence is deafening. Is the investigation truly ongoing, or has it been quietly shelved? Are authorities simply being cautious, or are they afraid to pursue a suspect with the power of a top CJNG lieutenant? In a country where the line between the government and organized crime is often blurred, the public is left to wonder if justice is even possible. For Valeria's family and a nation that watched her die, the silence feels less like due process and more like impunity in action. The motive, too, remains officially unconfirmed. Was it a crime of jealous rage? A message from a rival cartel? Was it connected to the bandits from her past? We are left with only speculation and the haunting digital echoes of her final moments. Her case has become a chilling symbol of the dual threats facing women in modern Mexico: the intimate danger of gender-based violence and the overwhelming power of organized crime. Valeria Marquez was caught at the deadly intersection of both. The story of Valeria Marquez is a tragedy on so many levels. It's the personal tragedy of a young woman full of ambition whose future was stolen from her. It is the public tragedy of a society forced to witness an execution in real time, a spectacle that laid bare the violence simmering just beneath the surface. And it is the national tragedy of a country in the grip of a femicide crisis, where the lives of women are systematically devalued and where justice is often unattainable. Dream. Valeria built a world for herself, online, a world of beauty and connection. But the real world, with its shadows and dangers, broke through and destroyed everything. Her murderer is a chilling reminder of the dangers faced by women in the public eye, especially in regions dominated by the unforgiving logic of organized crime. The question that lingers is whether her death will be just another headline that fades away, or if the outrage it sparked will fuel a real demand for change. Today, no one has been held responsible for her death. The case remains unsolved. But for those who saw the video, for those who heard her final word, and for a nation that continues to lose its daughters at an alarming rate, the memory of Valeria Marquez is not so easily erased. She is a digital ghost, a permanent reminder of the human cost of violence, and a symbol for a generation of women demanding the right to live without fear. Her story, a murder mystery broadcast to the world, will haunt us forever, not just for its horror, but for the profound and terrifying questions it leaves unanswered.